Mom. Hi, Dad. I'm hunting whitetails in a place I call Little Saskatchewan. It's not in Saskatchewan, it's actually not even in Canada, but the scenery and the terrain reminds me of Saskatchewan. It's late in the season, the rut is over, and the bucks are in survival mode. They're trying to regain the weight they lost during the rut. Food sources have been depleted, and the deer are coming to food placed on the ground in strategic locations, which is perfectly legal here. This is a perfect scenario for me because I'm trying to take a Pope and Young buck on film with my new breed cyborg bow. Wow, that's a nice 2.5-year-old deer. It didn't take long. Only been on stand about 20 minutes.
I apologize for not getting more or better footage of these deer coming in. There is only one window open on the blind, and that is to shoot. This maximizes scent control and minimizes movement. This is all part of a well-planned hunting strategy and a perfect example of total management. What I mean by total management is managing age structure, supplemental feeding so the deer survive winters, and minimizing pressure. One would swear these deer have never been hunted. I am literally sitting on the edge of my seat, wondering what's going to show up next.
Oh, that was a very nice 8-point and a broken main beam at the tip and a broken brow tine. What a nice buck. And that doe was about 4 yards from the blind. Could almost touched it.
So you're probably questioning why I didn't shoot the 8-pointer. Well, first of all, it was still early in the evening hunt, and second of all, it was early in my 4-day hunt, and he actually did come in pretty early in the afternoon, and you would expect the best bucks to come in a little later in the day. And sure enough, this great-looking 10-pointer shows up.
That was a very nice 3.5-year-old 10-pointer. Maybe on the last day.
So we do get one more good buck in before the end of the evening, and it was a 10-pointer. In my eyes, he was smaller than the 8-pointer, so it was a no-brainer to let him walk. And needless to say, I was anxious to see what the next day would bring. We pulled a chip on a trail camera and find a good buck to hunt, but we didn't get the right wind that afternoon. But there were plenty of other options, and we were off to a different location. These magpies provided the entertainment while I was waiting for the action to pick up, and the woodpeckers pounded on the old wooden fence nearby. A young 7-pointer with great potential shows up first with a couple of does. Again, I apologize for not being able to get better footage of these deer coming in. The scenario is the same as before. I have one window to shoot out of and film out of. And like the previous day, I am extremely close to these deer. Movements have to be slow and methodical. Several small deer come in, including this floppy horned little buck with some type of pedicle damage, followed by two larger bucks, including this 8-pointer with really good mass. A wide 7 and a tall 8 with great potential shows up.
Before we get back to the hunt, I'd like to talk to you about bowstring care. With today's advancements in bowstring material, strings can last for several years if they're taken care of correctly. So archery is about consistency. So if you have a string waxing regimen, definitely stick to it. I know guys that wax their strings every day before they shoot. I also know guys that don't wax their strings at all, but they change their strings every year regardless. It's automatic. But with today's prices, you'd want your strings to last as many years as possible. I'm actually going on my 5th year on this string, and the way it is right now may even be going to 6 years. Just some regular maintenance is all it takes. And you also want to make sure you are buying the latest technology in wax. Today's waxes, they're lighter, they're faster, they have silicone in them, and graphite as well. So as I said before, archery is about consistency, and if you don't have a regular string waxing regimen, I would recommend that you draw one up and stick to it. Let's take a scenario, for instance, where a person just waxes his string a couple times a year. Wax will add weight to your string, especially the older waxes, and adding weight to your string will slow the string down and will also change your impact point, especially beyond 30 yards. The older waxes are, in my opinion, they're maybe beeswax or some type of other wax. They are bulky, and when you add a lot of wax to your string, it's going to add more volume to that string, more wind resistance, and it's also going to slow your string down. Another thing I notice is the old waxes are stickier, and you want to get that wax around your cable slides, particularly more often than anywhere else, and by making this area sticky, it's going to slow your arrow down a few feet per second, and that's going to give you problems as well. Let's say, for instance, you grab your bow a couple of days before season, and you want to go out and sight in, go through your distances just to make sure everything is hitting where it should be. You realize, geez, my string needs wax. I should do that before the season. Well, now you're putting that wax on after sighting in, you're adding weight to the string, If it, you're maybe making this area here more slippery or less slippery, and that's going to change your impact point beyond 30 yards. And conversely, if you wax your string before you go out to sight in, and you see maybe you had to make some adjustments, and then a week or 2 weeks into the season or beyond that, you don't wax your string, you're going to probably lose yardage that way. Well, let's look at another scenario where some guys don't have an archery shop or work on their own bows like I do. The most common scenario would be where hunters take their bows to the pro shop and have them gone over prior to the season. The technician may put new strings or cables on it and wax the bow for the customer prior to giving it back to them. And then the customer goes and sights it in, and the string and cable don't see any attention for the rest of the season. Another thing I want to discuss is actually where I wax my string. I do not wax my strings anywhere where they're serving other than the center serving, because this wax will build up in the cams and actually narrow the cam. Besides that, you can get some stickiness in that cam area, especially again on a cold day. You may get a snap or a pop as you're drawing the bow, and you know what that does to a deer. That'll turn them inside out. So the only way I would put any wax on my serving back here around the cams is if I'm noticing a little wear, maybe around a sharp point or something. But you'd want to address that with a little sandpaper. But let's say you don't catch that until after the wear starts already. Myself, I have my own bow shop. I can break the bow down and expose that sharp area on that cam and sand it off a little bit, and it'd be good to go. I'd probably still put a little wax on that serving area just to keep it from fraying in season. And then I'd be looking at probably a new string or a cable, whatever the case may be. So you'll get a lot of fraying around your peep sight here too, and that can give you problems when you're shooting if that fraying gets in the center of your peep. So this is going to be a wear area around the cable stop or the string stop. So again, I pay particular attention to this area here, because this area this area around the cable slide is very critical. Again, if you're waxing that string only 2 weeks at a time and you're shooting on a regular basis, that's going to change your impact point. I guarantee it. And the other thing I want to mention is this is definitely where that string is going to wear out first. If you have a cable slide, I know some of you, a lot of bows have roller guards on them. I'm not real familiar with the roller guards. I do know that you can get wear there too from just from it riding back and forth. So now here's a scenario I run into quite often when I'm actually hunting, and that is I'm sitting in my tree stand, and because I carry my bow on a sling, I will notice that my string is getting dry, maybe starting to fray a little bit, meaning the wax is gone. I always carry chapstick, and chapstick is actually very similar to the high-tech waxes. Um, I guess in the way it feels and everything. I will pull the chapstick out of my pocket and actually apply it to my string and this area here around my cable. Just a little bit goes a long way, and it'll get you by until you can actually get some wax on it, or until you actually remember to put some on. But again, my string is, I'm going on 5 years old, my fifth year of hunting with it. I don't see any reason at this point why I would need another string next year, and I shoot pretty regularly, but I take care of my string. Again, at today's prices, I think you'd want to take care of your string and at least have it last as long as possible. Just make sure you buy and use the unscented chapstick. And now let's get back to the hunt.
You may notice a snapping or popping sound. This is caused by the wind moving the blind. Annoying for me too, but the deer are totally used to it. Looks like the boss has arrived. unbeknown to me at the time, the camera was getting extremely low on battery power. This is the last bit of footage before the camera runs out of battery power. How lucky am I?
So I make a perfect double lung shot on the deer. He only makes it about 80 yards and piles up in the woods. So we run out of battery power on the camera. We don't get any recovery footage, but we do get some pictures back at the farm. So once again, I'd like to thank you all for logging on to PCTVOutdoors.com, and good luck on your next outing.
This isn't Hollywood. It's not even close.